Mayor Cole, we are ready to go. If you would like to run the meeting this morning, Councillor Young is unavailable.
Sounds good. Okay, great. Yeah, we can get started then. And do we need to call a roll?
Yes, I can do that. City of Battleground, Councillor Victoria Ferrer.
Present.
City of Camas, Jim Hodges.
Present.
City of Washougal, Joe Walsh.
Present.
City of Ridgefield, Mayor Matt Cole.
Present.
Staff for the board, Rebecca Royce.
Noreen Ibrahim.
And Michael Torres, Program Manager.
And we do not have any other attendees to the meeting today at this point, at this time.
So just to be clear, do we do or don't have a quorum right now?
We do have quorum.
Okay, good. Okay, great. We can move forward with the first item on our agenda. It looks like we have introductions. Rebecca, I can pass it back over to you for that portion.
Introductions are complete with the roll call.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and then we'll move straight into public comment then. So it is public comment. You have 3 minutes each. If there's anybody here for a public comment, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
With no additional attendees, there will be no public comment this morning.
All right, then I would entertain a motion for the approval of the June 9th, 2025 minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay. Our first item of business today is Lifeline Connections. This is the TBRA additional funds request. And Ms. Royce, I'll pass it back over to you for the presentation here.
Thank you. Lifeline should be joining us this morning. We'll send them a quick email so that they can give you additional context outside of the information that I'm here to provide. And hopefully they'll be able to join us shortly. The Lifeline Connections is one of our tenant-based rental assistance programs. They are asking for a formal request to the Urban County Policy Board for additional funding for their program year 2024 contract. That's the contract that is running currently from January through December 2025. The original award of their contract for the home rent assistance was $87,816. They have, due to other funding that has run out, they have moved clients into their tenant-based rental assistance program from these other funds that are no longer available, and therefore have run through their funding very quickly, halfway through the contract period. So they are requesting an additional $90,000 to keep working with these households and pay their rents through the end of the year as they work to move them into self-sufficiency and out of the tenant-based rental assistance program. The Urban County Policy Board funding and application guidelines require that the Urban County Policy Board review and approve any request for additional funds above 10% of the original award, which is why we're here discussing this with the advisory board today. We have let Lifeline Connections know that we do have home funds available. These are program income dollars that we have collected normally through the year from loan repayments. So we do have that amount available if the Urban County Policy Board approves this request. However, there are no additional CDBG funds available to support the case management side of the program, and they have been notified that they will need to come up with other dollars to support the households for the staff services and the housing, case management, and things like that that are not eligible under the home side of the funding. That is the information that we have today, unless, Michael, if there's anything else that you wanted to add.
No, the only thing I'd add is my understanding it's approximately 10 households that if this funding were not approved, they would not be able to continue paying rents through December. And at this point, we don't have an alternative solution to keep those households housed. I do know Lifeline Connections has been in contact with Council for the Homeless, and they've been in contact with other other service providers in the area, like seeking alternatives for supports. And in terms of rent assistance, that's fully being utilized in our community right now.
I will also add one more point. They did not apply for 2025 funds, so we wouldn't just be able to start a contract early for their next round of funding. So they don't have any future tenant-based rental assistance funds at this time.
Are they confident that they're going to be able to meet those needs of paying for the administration side of it?
They've indicated that they will be able to do that on their end.
How much is that? Do you know?
Well, we typically provide 30% of the home award that to go towards the case management side. And we also know that that's not sufficient to pay for all of the case management side. The federal funds really do want a match of other funds that come in, and that's how they match the program is with other resources to help. So they would have had those kind of funds already set aside for the full year. They have not indicated what those funds would be, but they have indicated they're confident that they'll be able to provide that case management service through the end of the year.
And do we have any others that are making a request right now?
No,
Other than the,
not until the next round of applications.
okay.
Rebecca, you mentioned that there is funds available through the home fund. And this is the only remaining request for the year so far. Is that correct?
That
Yeah.
is correct.
Okay. And what is the fund balance there? Like, is like you said, we have this available. Like this is probably, I mean, it's obviously within that. If there was other requests that came in, would we be able to support those, or would this be kind of it, or what's the fund balance look like at this point?
It's quite rare that we have an agency come in and ask for additional funds outside 10%, a slight adjustment that they may need. So this is not an unusual situation that we would be dealing with. Typically, what our funding and application guidelines indicate is that anything bigger, after September 1st, we would be going into looking at the next round of applications and just having them come in and apply for funds through that mechanism rather than a special request to the board.
Gotcha. And it sounds like Lifeline Connections has actual households identified for the rental support here. This isn't that like there's specific families identified here.
These are households that are currently in the tenant-based rental assistance program. So without this funding, they are likely not going to have the rent assistance subsidy and are at a high risk for falling back into homelessness.
Okay.
There would be no new households served. This is just to be able to finish through this round of households that they have been working with to work with them to get either into another stable funding source or into their own self-sufficiency where they would be paying their full rent by themselves.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It's just crazy. I'm looking at the numbers, and the original award we gave them was for the 87,816, and that was supposed to be for a full year, and now they're asking for an additional 90,000 just for a very small window. Can you explain that to me, please?
Yeah, so typically they serve around 4 to 6 households through the tenant-based rental assistance program. Because these other funds ended, they didn't want them to fall into homelessness, so they moved them into this program. And so they are serving 10 households. So they're serving more than double what they would typically be serving. That's why you're seeing almost a double amount of request halfway through the program.
Great. Thank you. Board, any other questions or comments on this item of the agenda at this point? Okay, seeing none, I would accept a motion for this one. If there is no motion, then it would be counted as no action. So board, is that something, sounds like the way we're going to move? There's taking no action on this?
Jim with the city of Camas, I'll make a motion to bring this to a vote of the board.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Who is the second? Was that Battleground?
Yes.
Okay, great. It has been moved and seconded to approve the grant from Home Funds to LLC for in the amount of $90,000. Board, any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, board.
Thank you. We'll notify Lifeline today.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is, it looks like a presentation on the consolidated annual performance evaluation report. Ms. Royce, back over to you.
Thank you so much. So every year in September, we are required to do a consolidated annual performance evaluation report, also known as the CAPER. This reports on the accomplishments and spending for program year 2024. The federal program year is July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. This is the final year of our previous consolidated plan. So when we look at the data, if you look through the full report, you'll see outcomes not only just for this year, but also for the full 5 years of what our targets were through that last consolidated plan. We have a county council presentation and public hearing on September 23rd at 10 a.m. for them to review and approve the CAPER. It's primarily to get public comment, and then we will submit it to HUD for their review. The draft CAPER was released for public comment on August 22nd. We're giving 30 days for public comment this time around because we're pairing it with a substantial amendment that we also have a public comment period for. The comments will be accepted through September 22nd and then also at the public hearing with County Council. And then we are required to submit it to HUD by September 27th. We have 60 days from the time our program year ends to submit it. So I just wanted to go over a little bit of the outcomes for this year. So in 2024, we had a total spending of just over $2.4 million. Most of that, or $1.4 million, is from the Community Development Block Grant. There's some home investment partnerships funding. That's mainly our tenant-based rental assistance programs. We had some CDBG CV funds remaining. Those are spent through the business assistance programs. The CDBG CV funds are essentially gone. We have a little bit of admin dollars left in that funding stream, but that's about it. And then we have some home ARP spending. That's the additional home funding from the American Rescue Plan of about $120,000. And that is primarily the tenant-based rental assistance programs that went a little bit longer than our other funding normally goes. So we have that total amount of spending. When we break it down, there was $800,000 in affordable housing and homelessness, so tenant-based rental assistance primarily. The public facilities and neighborhood improvements, we only had about $140,000 in that, and that was mainly the Washougal Hamlet Park project. We are still very behind with our public facility and neighborhood improvement projects. We also had $1 million of economic development and home ownership spending, so a lot of business assistance in our home buyer programs, and then roughly $440,000 of administration. So that's tying all of those different funding sources, but just in the different types of categories that they're available. And then this is a breakdown of the reported activities in the report. So you'll see under public facilities and neighborhood improvements, we have Washougal Hamlet Park, and then also Council for the Homeless Housing Solutions Center. The spending on that was actually reported with our 2023 because we got that program up and running very quickly. So the spending part of it was reported in our last CAPER for the program year 2023, but the outcomes, because we have to wait to see how many people they're actually serving. So we can't report on the outcomes or how many people are being served until now. We have the final report and we're closing out that project. So that's why you'll see it's reported in both years. Under our asset and economic development, Fourth Plane Forward, Greater Vancouver Chamber, the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber, all provided business assistance throughout the year. We have our housing preservation program, and then Proud Ground for home buyer assistance is all reported this year. And then under our affordable housing and homelessness, you'll see that's all the TBR programs. So Janus, Lifeline Connections, the Salvation Army, that was through Home ARP funding, SHARE, and then YWCA. YWCA also had Home ARP spending. So those are the two tenant-based rental assistance programs that are reported under the Home ARP program. And that's everything that I have for the CAPER. Are there any questions?
You don't have any other, the ones that you gave for the TBRA, those are the only ones, like nobody else's, those are the ones that we accepted, right? Those aren't necessarily all the ones that we actually received requests on, or is that all the ones that sorry, they requested, and also the one, yeah, I'll just let you answer the question. Sorry, I'm trying to reword it to make you understand, but I think you got it.
This is the most number of tenant-based rental assistance programs that we have funded historically. Typically, it's been Janus Youth Lifeline and SHARE.
Okay.
Salvation Army and YWCA both came in through the Home ARP funding and started their programs. And that's why they took longer, because it was getting it up and running, understanding the complexities of the tenant-based rental assistance. And then moving forward, Lifeline did not request another round of assistance, but and YWCA did not get funded. They did put in a request, but they were not funded. So this next year, you'll only see Janus Youth and SHARE.
Do you know why Lifeline hasn't chosen to come to us for another year?
Tenant-based rental assistance is extremely complex, and there's a lot of rules and regulations around it. And you do have to bring a lot of match dollars into the program to be able to pay for the things that would typically be provided in a more typical rapid rehousing program. And so you have to have those other dollars set aside. And because of the complexity, and that's part of the reason the Salvation Army didn't come back in, is it's just a very complex program to operate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
There's no other questions. Okay, we can move on. But thank you very much for the presentation. The next, let's see, the next item on our agenda is the April through June 2025 quarterly report review. Ms. Royce.
Yes, I get to talk a lot in these meetings. So this is our report for April through June. I'm going to give you the information that was provided in quarterly reports, but also a little bit of update. I'd like to keep you up to date on what's happening, because we know a lot of things can happen in the last couple of months. These reports were provided in the reminder email, so you can actually zoom into them. I know there's quite a bit of information, and it can be a little bit hard to read on this screen. For the Battleground Southeast Clark Avenue project, during the reporting period, the project's still in design and working through the environmental assessment. To date, we just this morning posted for public comment on the environmental assessment. It is complete as far as the write-up. Now we're doing the public comment process, and then we'll submit a request for release of funds to HUD. So it'll be about 30 days after our public comment and the HUD's public comment before that project can move under contract. That project, however, is going through acquisition, and that's the Uniform Relocation Act is very complex, and they have a consultant. So it will take some time before that project can actually move forward to construction. The Ridgefield G Creek Loop, when we did this report, they were under their final design and the environmental review was underway. It's actually done and complete through the environmental assessment phase. The public comment has been complete, and we are waiting for the request for release of funds from HUD. The Washougal Hamlet Park improvement projects, that one has been under construction. They needed to wait until the spring to finish up the coating on the basketball court. It is now complete, and we're just waiting on a final report, the plaque to be placed, and their final invoice, and then that project will be closed out. The Battleground Northeast First Street projects, during the reporting period, this project was under design and going through the environmental assessment review. They also have easement acquisition, which is a temporary construction easement. It is also subject to the Uniform Relocation Act, and they have a consultant working with them on that project. So it will be pushed out a little ways before that is finalized and the construction can begin on that. But I'm happy to say that environmental assessment is complete. The public comment process has been completed, and we do have the request for release of funds, or I'm sorry, the authorization to use grant funds from HUD for that project. So we will be working through contracting as the next step for that project. Ridgefield Hall and Elm is my next project to work on the environmental assessment, and they have submitted some of the documentation that we need. We're still waiting to find out if there's some contamination from the port that was getting cleaned up, and we do not want to start the environmental assessment until that is actually signed off by the state. And so once we have that information, I can move into the environmental assessment on that project. The Battleground North Parkway sidewalks project, that will be coming up after the Holland Elm, or in tandem with the Holland Elm project, along with the Sargent Street in Ridgefield. So those are the next neighborhood improvement projects that I'll be working on the environmental assessments on. For the Clark County Main Street building, we'll be having a meeting in October to discuss how that project is going to move forward. So right now there's no report required, and we'll have more discussions at our October meeting. And then the Bertha's Place shelter remodel, we need to wait for our HUD allocation, our grant agreement, before we can move that project forward. It should be a pretty simple environmental review level process. And they also need to wait until spring because they're doing exterior work. So they need to wait for the weather to be a little bit drier. So it won't be able to move forward over the fall. As I mentioned previously, the Council for the Homeless Housing Solutions Center is now done. We were just waiting for their final report on the amount of people that they're actually serving in the new facility. This is the last time you will see that project on this report. For our asset and economic development programs, we have our business assistance program. So Fourth Plane Forward has served 26 businesses to date, which is what they propose to serve. So they will likely be above the number of businesses by the end of the year. The Greater Vancouver Chamber has served 27 out of the 100 businesses. They're well on their way to meeting their goals in that program for the number of businesses assisted. The Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber has served 29 out of the 35 businesses that they have proposed to serve. And then Fourth Plane Forward was the only business assistance program that was selected for funding moving into the next round. That will start in January after their current contract ends. For our home ownership programs, the Proud Ground 2022 funding, they have finally finished that contract out. They have sold all 4 of the homes proposed under that program, and they are now finished with that one. We are in the process of executing their 2023 agreement, and they anticipate having that those 4 households, I think it's 7 households by March that they'll have all of those projects and ready to go. So that contract will be moving pretty quickly. Our homeowner rehab program for 2023 funds is fully spent out now. They ended up assisting 4 households. And we're going to have a little bit of discussion about the homeowner rehab program here further in this meeting. The Evergreen Habitat homeownership program is getting behind. They are still working on their policies and procedures. They recently submitted their latest edition of policies for review, and I'll be reviewing that this week, and hopefully we can get that project up and moving. And then the 2024 allocation of Proud Ground funds will start as soon as they finish the 2023 contract. We are well underway in our homeowner rehab for 2024 funding, and that will be moving forward. There is 3 homes that are under construction and 2 that are out to bid. So they don't go into the outcomes until they are completed. So it looks like there's 0, but they are actually have 5 houses that they are currently working with. And then 2025 allocations to Evergreen Habitat and the homeowner rehab program will start in January. For Evergreen, it will most likely be as soon as they finish their current contract. And then when we look at the affordable housing and homelessness contract or programs, the second step housing, we talked about this at our June meeting. They did not meet their commitment deadline for the second allocation for 2023 funds. And so we have rescinded those. This is the last time you'll see that on the report. So that project, unfortunately, for acquisition is not moving forward. The Weaver Creek Commons project is hopefully going to be going groundbreaking either very late this year or early next year. They have almost all the funding situated. The environmental assessment, when we reported, was nearly complete, is now fully complete. We are just waiting for our authorization to use grant funds, and then we'll move into the contracting phase for the Weaver Creek Commons project. And then the Columbia River nonprofit housing, River and Main Street senior new construction senior housing was awarded funds in 2025, and they are just in the beginning of getting all of their funds put together. So that it'll be there for a while. We'll keep you informed on how they're doing with getting all of the funding there. And then all of our tenant-based rental assistance programs are working on schedule, except for Lifeline, who was a little bit ahead of their funding, as we've already discussed. But everyone else is working through all of the services, and there's no concerns with any of the other tenant-based rental assistance programs. And that is everything that I have for the quarterly report review. Are there any questions?
Board, any questions at this point on this report? Okay, well, that makes it easy. Thank you very much for that. That was very helpful. We can move on to the 2026 request for applications overview. Again, Ms. Royce, we'll go back to you.
Thank you very much. So this is going to be a little bit of a combination of some overview with some information, and then we do have an action item that we kind of put into the section. So our 2026 applications and the funding guides are being updated. They're nearly complete. And so they will be ready to release on October 1st with applications due on December 1st. And then we'll go through our normal process for internal review and then submit them out for the Urban County Policy Board to review along with the presentations in February. A few of the things that we've updated this year, we are always looking at our applications and seeing how can we make them more efficient, better understanding for both us and for the Urban County Policy Board. So through this year, we have updated based on last year's applications and that process. We have one new requirement that we definitely wanted to highlight this year. Staff get a lot of questions, and it's the same questions, and it's questions that we've answered in previous forms through the pre-submittal workshops and through our frequently asked questions. So this year, through the pre-submittal process, we are requiring that all applicants either attend the workshop or watch the video. We always post the video of that to our website. So there will be a question in the pre-submittal process to indicate that somebody that's tied to this application has attended or watched the pre-submittal workshop. And our goal is that we can help people find the answers to their questions through the information we've already provided, rather than having to wait and submit a question in writing and then wait for staff to respond. We are also working on the acquisition, relocation / right-of-way questions to make them a little bit more clear on what we're looking for. Historically, our projects that have had acquisition for temporary construction easements has not indicated that there's acquisition part of it, and it definitely is. And so we want to make sure that the questions are getting answered appropriately. With the Uniform Relocation Act, it is imperative that we start notifying the property owners as soon as we know that that project is happening. So that is at the application stage, not when we get near construction stage. And then this will also help us make sure that we are more timely in how we're moving these projects along. So, and that all of the Uniform Relocation Act requirements are being met because there's specific notifications and specific verbiage that has to be used. So that is the main reason why we're revamping that question there. And then we're expanding information in the funding guides to be clearer on the application and what our contract expectations are. So we always want to make our funding guides as helpful, not only for the Urban County Policy Board when you do a review, but also for the applicant. So they know what they should be submitting in their applications and expecting once we get to a contract stage. So we'll always be looking to update those funding guides and to be able to provide better information. We do have the new public service application and funding guide. It's under development. It is also nearly complete. We have our priority service areas that based on our previous conversations. So those priority areas are transportation, health services, including mental health and dental, food assistance, housing counseling, and then childcare. And so those were based on the top needs in the Community Services Block Grant Community Needs Assessment, and then also the surveys that we did during our consolidated plan process, and then feedback from the board. Childcare definitely was one that the board wanted to see included as a priority area. So when we submit or open up the applications, they'll be able to choose which one of those areas their application is targeting. This is the action item. So we have a request to the board to increase our homeowner rehab set-aside allocation. It's currently the program receives $250,000 each year out of our CDBG entitlement funds. And we have seen over the last 2 years the significant increase in cost for construction skyrocket to where our average assistance is now $35,000 to $40,000 per household. We have a maximum of $40,000, so it wouldn't be. Although our homeowner rehab specialist would tell you that they could invest more just to bring these homes to a habitable state. When we work on these homes, part of the reason we increased the amount that was available was because the cost of construction, and we have to if we do any work at a home, we have to make sure that it meets what the current housing quality standards requirements. It's changing to Inspire, but it's the same idea of the house being habitable. So we can't go in, if there's significant rot and damage throughout the home, we can't go in and just do a piece of that and walk away. We have to invest the amount that would do all of the work to make the home habitable or walk away from the job. So we increased our maximum up to $40,000. The $250,000 covers both staff time for implementation and the cost for doing all of the work. Because the costs of construction have significantly increased, a number of homes we're able to help is down to roughly 4 to 5 per year. We already have a 2-year wait list for people that are looking to get this type of service. It's very rare. There used to be other programs from Evergreen Habitat and a couple of other agencies that would also do similar type programs that we could pool funds and make sure that we helped more households. But those programs have gone away. The city has their own program, but that only serves within the city of Vancouver, and our funds serve the rest of the county. So anybody in the small cities or an unincorporated Clark County. So those, we're not able to serve very many households. And so our request is to increase this up to 400,000, hoping to get closer to serving 10 households per year through this program.
The only thing I'd add to that, this is Michael Torres, is prior to the pandemic, the average number of households served per year was around a dozen. So because of the escalating costs during the pandemic, that really dropped to 10 or below, and we're down to 4 to 6, as Rebecca said. And the main reason for that is just the escalating costs mean that we don't have funds to serve more, and the wait lists keep growing. So if we want to serve, and 10 is still below what we were serving before the pandemic, more households in this community, usually these are, low income senior households that would not have an alternative if they lose their home. And it's really to keep it habitable so they can stay there. We don't have to, this is really a UCPB decision if we keep it at 250,000 or increase it to 400,000. In terms of program and regulations, it's okay to keep it at 250,000. But the need in the community, just to be very, very clear, the need in community for this specific service really is much higher. And we have not maintained a program at a budget level sufficient to not only meet existing demand, but to meet existing service levels or previous service levels.
So with that, I will open it up to the board for questions.
Sorry. Okay, board, any questions on this item right here, this presentation? Can you remind me what this is being transferred from which fund again?
So this is the Community Development Grant Fund, and we take it off the top. So we get our 1.5 million approximate entitlement each year. We take out the administrative dollars, and then we remove the set asides for both the homeowner rehab program and the case management side for the tenant-based rental assistance. And then the rest of that is divvied up between our public facility neighborhood improvements programs and the asset and economic development programs. And then we fill in with home in the types of programs that we can when we can. But our home funds are significantly less. So,
when is the last time that fund amount has been like the 1.5 million? When was the last time that was increased, or is that stayed the same through the pandemic as well, or has it been increased since the pandemic? I guess is what I'm asking.
We have for the last 3 years, I believe we've been pretty steady. What Congress has allocated to the community development block grant funds. There might have been slight increases, slight decreases over the last, I would say, 5 years. There wasn't any major increases to community development block grant through the COVID relief funds because they gave us the CDBG CV funds specifically for that. And then those funds are spent out. And then prior to that, that would be before I was running the program. So
it's been pretty steady at 1.5 million. And that is the annual entitlement from the federal government. It's based on available funding and distributed by formula allocation. So it hasn't really changed for Clark County almost since I've been here over the past 10 years. But we do add to that any program income we receive. So what goes into the request for applications is the entitlement after we've removed the rehab, we've removed implementation, just like the listing of stuff that Rebecca mentioned, and then the program income. So what's left of entitlement plus program income is what goes into the request for applications.
Yeah. Okay, good. I guess where I'm going with that is, it seems like if anybody, any of these if you're in local government, you see that capital costs or construction costs in general just have been increasing rapidly over the past few years. And, when you have $1.5 million in grants to disperse, that's great. But then you start looking at how much costs have increased over time, and especially something like this, then you start seeing like that doesn't quite get you as far, which is the reason why we're having this discussion. And so I'd be curious to see, if I know that like on the federal level, spending is a real concern, and this is probably not the year to really revisit it, but at some point it would make sense to look at what are the options or, the advocacy needed to increase that, the amount of CDBG funds that they come to the county. But in general, I think that this is probably a necessary increase.
I'll also indicate that for as long as I can remember, this has not increased from $250,000 per year. And I've been
Yeah.
working in the program for 15 years.
Yeah. And I guess what I was saying is that means there's $150,000 less of CDBG funds to now work with from the root fund. But I think this is a worthwhile effort, so we should support it. But you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul at some point, and so it'd be good to see some increases in funds overall, as we look towards the future. Board, any other comments or questions at this point on this item? Seeing none. So this was not listed as an item for action, but it looks like you're asking us to take some action on this portion of it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if that's the case, board, I would entertain a motion to for this item right here.
I'll motion for it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to increase the homeowner rehab fund to $400,000. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much, board. And glad we can get that done.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to program updates.
I will take this from here also. So we wanted to let you know that our new consolidated plan for 2025 through 2029, including the 2025 annual action plan, was submitted on August 13th. HUD has 45 days to review. Their review is due by September 26th. We actually have a meeting with our HUD rep for tomorrow afternoon to review. We anticipate having to do some corrections. We found a couple minor things already in our review after submission. And it's very common that consolidated plan and annual action plans have things that are missing or that need to be updated. So we'll get that information from our HUD rep and we'll make those updates. And usually they're just technical fixes and we'll resubmit it. And then as soon as that's done, they can work on getting us our grant agreements. We anticipate the home grant agreement to be received shortly after plan approval. Our CDBG grant agreement will be delayed due to our timeliness issues, and we have a conversation in this meeting to give you an update there. Actually, it's my next item. Sorry, timeless and update. So we were requested by HUD headquarters to submit a formal response to some specific questions. We resubmitted that on June 30th, and we have not received a response to date. So we are unsure of what our steps are moving forward. At this time, we will keep the board updated once we hear about the timeliness and what HUD headquarters has indicated for us. Michael?
Thank you. So what we do know is HUD headquarters should review our response, and next step would be schedule a formal consultation. That will be some kind of meeting. I'm not sure if it's in person or virtual, likely virtual, with HUD headquarters, likely some county staff, likely some UCPB representation of some sort in that consultation, and basically with the idea of validating our feedback to them in terms of when we will when will we become timely again. And once that consultation is done, they approve our Get Timely plan, and they will be able to move forward with the contract. That's the process as we know it. The unknowns are how long will they take to review our plan, and when will the formal consultation take place. And we've looked with other communities across the country, because there are multiple jurisdictions that are having this same process and issue. And there really has not been consistency that we've been able to identify in terms of speed and the amount of time it takes. It really seems to be what's going on at HUD in that moment and what's in front of them. We've also been in conversations with our HUD program officer with the Seattle office, and really they don't have any information in terms of what the timeline is for all this to happen. So that's the information we have right now.
Yeah, there's been significant changes in staff levels throughout HUD at the headquarters level all the way down to the regional offices, and that is delaying reviews of all planning documents and any special requests. So we wanted to look at, we've shown you this before a few meetings ago, but we wanted to give you a specific updates on the projects that we consider late or very late. So the Battleground Southeast Clark Avenue project was funded with program year 2020 funds. So that one is very late. We originally attached that to Weaver Creek. We thought that was going to be a component required for the Weaver Creek project. So it was on delay in part from staff, but once we realized that it did not rely on the Weaver Creek project, we were able to separate it. And so, as I mentioned before, we posted the environmental assessment today for public comment for 15 days, and it'll go for a request release of funds, and we can move that one forward. And the City of Battleground is working on the Uniform Relocation Act compliance in that project. Another very late project is our 2022 Ridgefield G Creek. And for that, the environmental assessment has just been completed, but the construction will be delayed until spring, summer to reduce any impacts on the adjacent wetland. The very late project of the Washougal Hamlet Park is essentially complete. We're just waiting on the final paperwork to be submitted. The Battleground Northeast First project, as mentioned, the environmental assessment is now complete, and that is another project that we are working through the Uniform Relocation Act compliance. The Ridgefield Holland Elm was funded in program year 2023, and that project will be starting the environmental assessment process very soon. And then our Proud Ground Homebuyer program, they are getting that caught up quite quickly, and we anticipate having that contract executed within days. We have late status on 4 projects. The Battleground 2024 funded North Parkway Avenue that is on the next to-dos for the environmental assessments, and be able to move that project forward along with the Ridgefield Sargent Street improvements project. And then, as mentioned before, the Evergreen Habitat Homeownership Assistance Program funded in 2024. We're still working through their policies and procedures to ensure compliance. The communication has been slow working with the agency. We did receive a response late last week, so hopefully we'll be able to move into contract execution within the next couple of weeks. And then the Proud Ground 2024 allocation, which will start as soon as the 2023 funds are spent. Continuing on with some program updates, we wanted to let you know what we've been hearing about budgets for the program year or fiscal year 2026. The House's THUD build, which is their Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Committee, is proposing CDBG funds be level funding from last year at $3.3 billion, which means we would receive about 100 or 1.5 million locally. But they have zeroed out the home program. So there would be no funding if that budget gets moved forward. The Senate has done a slight decrease to the CDBG budget to $3.1 billion, but they have kept home at level funding. Staff believe there will be funding for both programs. Typically, if there's funding for a program in either one of the budgets for the House or the Senate, then there will be negotiation to have funding in there. We feel confident that the CDBG funds will be in that 3.1 to 3.3 level. It's unknown where the home level funding level will be. There is a lot of discussion. Home ARP funds have been a little bit slower to spend, and so the House is tying the home and the home ARP programs together. However, they are very separate programs. They have different rules and ways that you can spend funds, and so it's an unfair assessment to put all of those, the home and home ARP programs together. There's been a lot of communication about that. As we're about to spend nearly $1 million and spend out our home ARP funding with our Weaver Creek project. And then our allocation of Homework will be there. So those are the discussions that are happening on the federal level, but we do anticipate having funding in both programs. There's also discussion of a continuing resolution. We don't know what that would look like. Typically, it's the same level as previous funding for whatever time frame that they set aside. It could be 2 weeks. It could be a full year continuing resolution. We will keep the board notified as soon as we hear more information. The House and Senate just came back from recess, so they will be working on these bills over the next couple of weeks. We've also sent notifications out to the Urban County Policy Board regarding a new bill called the Road to Housing Act. It was passed out of the Senate Banking Committee unanimously. There are some pros and cons with the bill, which is why we wanted to notify the Urban County Policy Board as soon as we heard anything about it. There's part of the bill that would reauthorize most of the home program, which hasn't been authorized at the federal level since the 1990s. So that's a positive. There is also a component to permanently authorize the CDBG DR program, which is Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. This fund is paired very closely with FEMA dollars. When there is a natural disaster, FEMA can get in and allocate funds very quickly. And then CDBG DR comes in right after that. And that's what's really rebuilding infrastructure and doing rebuilding houses and things like that. So it's a really important program. So it'll be permanently authorized if the Road to Housing Act is approved. It also creates a pilot program to convert vacant and abandoned buildings into affordable housing, but that's only if home funding is at $1.35 billion in funding, and that hasn't been at that level for as long as I can remember. So it's unlikely that that component would really move forward. It does move some environmental reviews to an easier level, but really the impact is a couple of hours versus some significant changes. As I'd mentioned before, what we deal with locally is any change in infrastructure, any new infrastructure or change in infrastructure of 20%, either capacity or the size, triggers an environmental assessment. That's where we have significant issues, where all of our projects have been bumping up to an environmental assessment and take quite a bit longer to complete. That is still in the bill. So that is a major con. And I am working with the National Association of County Community Economic Development Agencies, or NACED, on a response to the bill for things that we would like to see passed that are already existing, or recommendations for improvement to the bill. And that is one area that I've submitted for improvement. It also has a section 206 called the Building Now Act, which ties CDBG allocations to housing production, which seems like it would be a good thing, especially if you're a community that is able to increase housing production. But if you are not one of those communities, if you're a rural area, or if you have priorities maybe in other areas, using the funds, it will penalize you and you will lose your CDBG funds. And so that is some concern for the act itself. Once the letter that we have developed is completed and sent to the Senate through NACED, I can share it with the Urban County Policy Board so that you can see the information that is being provided. And that is everything I have for program updates.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I guess I'll go to the board for any questions or comments on this item as well. Board, is there any commentary here? All right. I think we're good to go on this one. Thank you very much again. And then the last item on our agenda is just the other. So for the good of the order, we'll start with staff and then we can kind of finish up with board members.
I don't believe I have anything else, Michael.
I do not.
Okay, from the board, members of the board, anything for the good of the order at this point? Okay, seeing none. Our next Urban County Policy Board meeting will be on October 13th at 9:30. And it looks like there will be is that special meeting on the 13th?
Correct. That is a special meeting, so we won't be doing all of the normal business we would be doing at our other meetings. So it'll just be a special meeting to discuss the county-owned battleground building that was allocated funds in the 2025 round.
Sounds good. Okay, good. So with that, next meeting will be a special meeting on October 13th at 9:30. And thank you very much, board, for your attendance today and for staff for your hard work to put together all the good information here. So with that, if there's no other questions or comments, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.